All right, so following him making it onto the top 75 all-time list and scoring 50 points in the All-Star game, a lot has been made of Steph Curry, and there's been a conversation of where does Steph Curry really rank all-time amongst the other NBA greats. Now, ESPN's First Take, Stephen A. Smith and Jay Williams are going to discuss if Steph Curry is a top 10 player of all time already, and Stephen A. is going to try to make his case for it. And I think the most important thing before I let the video play is this. We have to be objective when we're talking about these lists because we're comparing players from different eras. And these players, some of these guys didn't get a chance to play against other guys. So we got to compare their resume and what they did in the time that they did it in. So with that being said, I'm going to let them talk about it and I'll chime in.
All right, earlier this season, the NBA unveiled its 75th anniversary team. ESPN's expert panel ranked them, and here's what they got. Elgin Baylor checks in at 20, then the logo Jerry West, and two international guys, Giannis at 18, then Dirk, Steph at 16, KD at 12, Shaq at 11. And
it's pretty crazy to think that people are getting paid at ESPN to make a list like this. You have to be objective when you're making lists. To have Shaq 11th, Shaq is the most dominant player in NBA history, and you have Shaq not in your top 10, and people are getting paid to make a list with Shaq not in the top 10. The most dominant big man ever, he actually three-peated. He three-peated. People knew what he was going to do, and he did the same move, the same drop step, and it worked 3 years in a row because he was that dominant. He was that much of a force. Shaq has to be a top 10 player. Hakeem Olajuwon at 13th, that's just as insane. Hakeem Olajuwon on my list is like 7th. Because Hakeem Olajuwon, when Jordan retired and went to go play baseball, people don't realize this, the league was up for grabs and Hakeem Olajuwon took it. He won back-to-back finals MVPs, leading Houston Rockets team to 2 NBA championships. So what can you say about that? Michael Jordan's the most dominant player in NBA history. Most lists are going to have Michael Jordan at number 1. I think most objective people will say Michael Jordan is undisputably the GOAT. So Michael Jordan at the GOAT, when Michael Jordan not around, Hakeem took the league by the throat. So Hakeem Olajuwon, best footwork of all time probably, better footwork than most of these NBA guards, definitely the best footwork of any big man of all time. Probably the most mobile big man of all time. His ability to run up and down the court, his ability to shoot it at such a high level, his defense, he brought so much to the game. Hakeem Olajuwon has to be a top 10 player.
here's how the top.
And I also, side note, I also don't know how you could have KD at 12th and Steph Curry at 16th. In my list, if I go that extensive with it, I probably have KD slightly ahead of Steph Curry because he was the better player overall on those Warrior teams, and he did win Finals MVP at the end of the day. But the offense was ran through Steph Curry. That was Steph Curry's team still. So it's hard for me to say that KD is like way up there at 12th and Steph Curry is down at 16th. If I'm going to have one ahead of the other, it's going to be slight. Like they're probably going to be back-to-back on my list or maybe like one player in between. But it's neck and neck with those two.
Top 10 pans out with Kobe, Oscar Robertson, Tim Duncan, Larry Bird, Bill Russell, Wilt, Magic, Kareem, and then the top 2, LeBron and MJ.
So Kareem has 6 rings. So how do you have LeBron ahead of Kareem? Kareem has 6 rings, and in Kareem's prime, Kareem was getting you 35, 15, and 5. That's what Kareem would get you on an average night in his prime. Not to mention 4 blocks and like 2 steals. So how do you have LeBron ahead of Kareem? I don't understand. How do you have Wilt Chamberlain ahead of Bill when Bill beat him every single time? I don't understand. How do you have Kobe Bryant ahead of Shaq when they played on the same team as each other and Shaq was the better player? Shaq was the guy leading the team to 3 championships. Just doesn't really make sense to me. And if you're going to say, oh, well, Kobe has 5 rings, Shaq has 4. Shaq got a ring without Kobe as well. So this list is off.
All right. Jay Williams, let's go.
All right.
Is
Go ahead.
Steph Curry a top 10 player?
So I evaluate Steph Curry with where he is right now. Okay. Right now.
Right now, Steph Curry is not a top 10 player. Now, Steph Curry could win a Finals MVP because he hasn't won a Finals MVP yet. If he could win one and maybe another regular season MVP, then we could talk about him being a top 10 player. But he really needs to win a Finals MVP. That would be the icing on top for his career.
Steph Curry will definitely crack the top 10 when it's all said and done. Okay. Brother is prolific.
He'll crack it if he wins a Finals MVP and another regular season MVP. He's probably going to need both to crack the top 10, but definitely a Finals MVP. He needs that.
Put up my top 10, please, so everybody can see it. Because I did my own ranking. Now, I factor in personality traits. I factor in people who I think are killers, people who I think are averaging.
This guy just said he factors in personality traits and who he thinks is a killer. So he's basically telling you my list isn't objective. He's saying I'm a fanboy, I'm a grown man, but I'm a fanboy, and I'm making a list based off who I like. That's like when I saw Kevin Garnett. I believe it was Kevin Garnett. Maybe Carmelo did this too, but Kevin Garnett was on Gilly and Wallow's podcast, $1 Million Worth of Game, and he didn't have Jordan on his list. He was like making a list of people whose game he fucked with. Like, come on, dude. You have to be objective when you're making these lists. And this list is crazy. How do you have Kobe 3 and Shaq 6? I don't get it. Like I said earlier, Shaq is better than Kobe. Shaq was the better player on the team when they were playing with each other. How do you have Bill all the way down at 8 when Bill was the biggest winner in NBA history? It's all about winning. He has 11 rings. You play the game to win. So I don't know how you have Bill all the way down at 8. He doesn't have Wilt Chamberlain on this list. He has Kevin Durant already in the top 10. This is a crazy list.
Obviously, all-time NBA. I go MJ, LeBron James.
He has Kareem 5th. Like, this list is crazy.
Kobe, Kareem, Magic, Shaq, Tim Duncan, Bill Russell, Larry Bird, and I have KD at number 10. So, if that's my top 10, I'm very curious because I think Stephen Curry.
Well, if that's your top 10, of course Steph Curry could crack the top 10. He just needs to have a better career than Kevin Durant. And his career matched up with Kevin Durant is they're par for par, you know? They're eye to eye. So Steph Curry could definitely end his career ahead of Kevin Durant. It just depends on who wins more going forward. Whoever wins another ring without the other person is probably going to be ahead at the end of the day.
Curry, when you think about it, when it comes down to it, right? Steph Curry, 2-time MVP, 6-time All-NBA. Everybody else that's an All-NBA player on this list, they've averaged at least 12 and a half times they've been All-NBA. Now, I know it's over the longevity of your career, but also
longevity stats are kind of overrated. You know, when people talk about Kareem has the most points all time and LeBron's going to pass up his points record and shit like that. I mean, what did you average, though? It's about what you averaged. It's about when you were playing. What were you giving us when you were playing? Not, oh, I played for hella long. Like, Vince Carter played forever. Vince Carter was a pretty good player, but I'm sure Vince Carter all time has pretty high stats because he played forever. But you're not taking Vince Carter over Kobe Bryant just because in certain departments he might have more overall stats, or maybe Kobe was a bad example, but you guys get what I mean. Vince Carter over a Larry Bird who had a shortened career due to injuries. You wouldn't do that. So I don't really like longevity arguments.
to measure you against your contemporaries.
When we talk about longevity, you could use that when you're playing the GM hat and you're talking about who you would have for a career. You could say, oh, well, I'll take LeBron because I know I'm going to get 19 years of high-level play. You could say that if you want, if you're putting the GM hat on. But when you're comparing careers, I don't think that longevity is as big a deal as people make.
Now, I think it's harder for Steph, obviously, because he's playing with the likes of KD and LeBron James, who are both in my top 10, who are playing currently. Even though I think the trajectory, he's on his way. But I think Stephen Curry right now, for me, he's around 11, 12. He's barely on the outside looking in, Stephen A. He will crack it, but I think we need to see a little bit more of Steph do things at the level he did last year and this year without Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant got 2 Finals MVPs when they won the chips.
Yeah, Steph Curry's having a little bit of a down year this year, and he's still overall the best lead guard in the NBA, so I don't want to take anything away from him, but he is having a little bit of a down year this year. And the Warriors looked good very early on. They looked like they were going to win the championship for sure, but ever since the Draymond injury, they've been a little shaky. So Steph Curry needs to win one this year. I think this is the year for them to go all in and to go for the kill. He needs to get this championship, and that would really help him get into that top 10.
I'm not in a position to disagree. I didn't know you were going to have your top 10 list. Yes. My apologies, because I would have had my own as well.
It's okay. I like to throw a little.
I like it. Yesterday, let me share with you what I really, really struggled with. And I didn't have the list that they put up of the top 10 players. I need to see that again if y'all can help me out here. Because my whole point was this. I said, number one, I thought that Shaq deserved to be in there ahead of Tim Duncan. Okay?
Yeah, I have Shaq slightly ahead of Tim Duncan just because he was more dominant overall. I have Shaq, I believe I had Shaq 8th and Tim Duncan 9th. Yeah, I understand that. There is an argument for Tim Duncan being ahead of Shaq, but Shaq was just too dominant. I'd put Shaq ahead of Tim Duncan as well.
Yep. It was hard for me because what do you do with Wilt Chamberlain, who they changed the rules for, but he only had 2 chips, and what I held against Wilt Chamberlain is the fact that Russell got 11. So how does Russell got 11, and that was your number? That was your primary nemesis. It was Wilt against Bill Russell.
Yeah, if one guy has 2 rings and another guy has 11 and they were playing against each other, you can't put the guy with 2 rings ahead of him. That just doesn't even sound right repeating it. You know what I mean? So, real quick, I'm going to give you guys my list. I'll go Jordan 1, Kareem 2, Kareem with 6 rings, the numbers that he was putting up. I'll go Magic Johnson 3 because Magic Johnson was carrying the mantle after Kareem started slowing down a bit. Magic Johnson, greatest point guard of all time. I'll go Bill Russell 4 because the name of the game is to win, and he was the all-time best winner, and his defensive metrics are through the roof. I'll go Larry Bird 5 and LeBron 6. This is where it gets a little tricky because I don't mind putting LeBron 5 and Larry 6. I just have a little bit of a bias towards Larry Bird over LeBron because Larry Bird was a better shooter and because I trust Larry Bird in the clutch more. 7, I would go Hakeem Olajuwon for the reasons I stated earlier. 8th, I would go Shaq for the reasons that I stated earlier. 9, I would go Tim Duncan because Tim Duncan is a Ray Allen shot away from being 6-0 in the finals. Tim Duncan, when you talk about wearing the GM hat, you know when you get Tim Duncan that you're getting 15 years of 25 points, 15 rebounds, 2 blocks, good leadership, not a problem in the locker room. Somebody who's just, the perfect role model for what you want out of a star player. And then at 10, rounding out the group, I'll probably put Wilt Chamberlain because you have to have Wilt in your top 10. Wilt was just a physical specimen. He's a phenom. They had to change the game because of him. The numbers that he put up were just incredible. So I put Wilt 10. So once again, Jordan 1, Kareem 2, Magic 3, Bill 4, Larry 5, LeBron 6, Shaq 7, Hakeem 7, Shaq 8, Duncan 9, Wilt 10.
And Wilt averaged 50 points.
And right outside the top 10, I'd probably go Oscar Robertson, 11, Kobe Bryant, 12, Zeke, Bad Boy Pistons, 13th. Maybe I go Zeke 12th and Kobe 13th. And then that's when Shaq, KD, Giannis, that's when these other guys start to come in.
Points a game, one season, 44 another, and his career 22.9 rebounder per game individual, and all had 100 points in the game. But here was the problem. You went up against Russell, and Russell got 9 more titles than you. So what do I do with that? So I struggled with that. I said I had no problem with MJ number 1. You know that. LeBron James number 2. Kareem Abdul.
Nobody who's being rational, nobody who's being objective is going to have a problem with Jordan being number 1. Jordan is clear-cut number 1. And there's no argument really to be made between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Michael Jordan is 6-0 in NBA Finals. And I heard Kevin Wiles on Fox Sports, what's it called? First Things First with Nick Wright. He brought up a great argument that between Michael Jordan and LeBron is a whole Hall of Fame career. Between Michael Jordan and LeBron is so many scoring titles that Jordan has over LeBron. It's multiple championships that Jordan has over LeBron. It's multiple less losses in the championship that LeBron has. Jordan has less losses in those championships than LeBron. Like there's a Defensive Player of the Year award that's between Jordan and LeBron, even though I feel like that's a little bit unfair because LeBron should have won a Defensive Player of the Year award one of those years in Miami. But Jordan actually won the award. So there's a whole Hall of Fame career. Like there's like a whole top 20 all-time player in between Jordan and LeBron.
Abdul-Jabbar number 3. I'm set on my top 3. Okay? Everything.
And if you wanted to ignore everything I said, you could just keep it this simple. Who do you want the ball? Who do you want the ball in their hand late in the game? You want the ball in Jordan's hand or you want it in LeBron's hand? It's that simple.
Else is up for grabs to me because I think about Magic Johnson, the greatest point guard who ever played basketball.
Kobe being Bryant.
I think about Kobe B. Bryant, who's a 5-time champion, but I also got to think about the 3 he got with Shaq, even though Shaq got the 3 with him. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Now, it matters to me
Exactly.
that he went away from Shaq and got 2 more and went to 3 straight finals. So I pay attention to that as well. But then I think about Steph Curry. This is the greatest shooter God ever created.
Agreed.
There is no one that is in his stratosphere in terms of shooting the basketball. The brother does have 3 rings. He did go to the finals 5 straight years. And here's where it gets tricky, Jay. Kevin Durant, I don't understand how anybody can leave Kevin Durant.
Side note, as much as Steph Curry has struggled shooting the ball compared to in past seasons, and as much as he's struggling to finish around the rim as he has in past seasons, he's playing great defense this year. Steph Curry is playing great defense this year, and he's getting his teammates involved. So kudos to him.
Off the top 10 because as a talent, I think Kevin Durant is better than Larry Bird.
Agreed.
Okay,
Yes.
He's 6'11". He's a sniper extraordinaire. He's a 2-time.
Yeah, Kevin Durant might be overall more talented than Larry Bird, but Larry Bird was extremely clutch, and KD's clutch, but Larry Bird was extremely clutch, and Larry Bird had accomplished more in his prime than KD has so far. So KD's career is there's still more to be written. He can still add more, but as of right now, Larry Bird is ahead of Kevin Durant. The all-time best small forwards in the NBA I'd go Larry Bird slightly over LeBron, like 1A, 1B, but you could go Larry Bird or LeBron, and then Kevin Durant would be just outside of that.
Champion, 2-time NBA Finals MVP. He's a league MVP. We know how phenomenal Kevin Durant is, and you just get he's a professional scorer. There's no way to guard him.
I even think he's a better scorer than Michael Jordan. You may think I'm crazy.
Blasphemy. In the words of Stephen A. Smith, that's blasphemous. Kevin Durant is not a better scorer than Michael Jordan. Kevin Durant is a great scorer. Kevin Durant is an all-time scorer. He's right up there with Jordan, but he's not a better scorer than Jordan. Jordan wasn't shooting the 3 ball. That wasn't part of his game. And Jordan was playing in an era with more defense, yet he averages more points than Kevin Durant does. And they both shoot about the same from the field, so they're both very efficient. They're both very proficient scorers. But Jordan, he won more. His points were more meaningful. They were more impactful. They were in bigger moments. They were versed tougher defenses. He just did more overall.
But that's up for debate.
No. I don't. You know what? You can make a legitimate argument.
Kevin Durant has the better 3 ball. Kevin Durant probably better from the free throw line overall. But it's not even close when you talk about finishing under the rim and dunking over the opposition. And in the mid-range, it's neck and neck, but I would lean towards Jordan.
About that is just that I think about the road to prosperity, which is what I hold against LeBron.
Kevin Durant has a nasty crossover, but Michael Jordan's ball control is better. So I trust Michael Jordan getting to his spots. And Michael Jordan had more strength, so Michael Jordan could back you down and get into certain places and get the ball right where he wanted it to, where Kevin Durant can't sometimes. We see P.J. Tucker pushing Kevin Durant out of position last year. It didn't matter because KD would rise up over him anyway, but I'm just saying.
James, in terms of the era that Jordan had to play in and what he had to endure to get to that spot, doing rules changes and all of that other stuff. And I don't think, and a coach yesterday reminded me of young Lou Alcindor before he became.
Put it like this, if Michael Jordan was playing in this era in the NBA right now, with the freedom of movement that they have, no hand checking, he would probably average, he had a season where he averaged 36 points. He averaged 36, 8, and 8 one year. That was the year he won Defensive Player of the Year too, I believe. So in this era, he would probably average something like, and this is with like load management and sometimes resting and not always going full speed because you're blowing teams out, but he would probably average like 38, 9, and 9. He probably would average something like that. 38, 9, and 9. 38 points maybe, Yeah, 38, 9, and 9 on like 55% from the field, close to 40% from three, and maybe he took a couple a game, like not too many, but he hit them. So maybe close to 40% from three, about 40, and he would be shooting, his free throw percentage 85+%. So and that's what being one of the best defenders in the NBA, if not the best defender.
And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and how phenomenal he was, and people forget about that too. Here's where it gets tricky. KD all world. And he was clearly the best player on the Golden State Warriors team. They don't...
Not clearly, like he wasn't undisputably the best player on that team, but overall, yeah, he was better. He was slightly better than Steph Curry.
Win back-to-back titles without KD.
That's a fact. I actually don't think that if the next year they had played and the Warriors didn't have KD and they ran into the Cavs the very next year, I think the Cavs would have beat them.
But does he get a title without them? Point number one. Point number two. Didn't they win a title before he ever arrived? Yes, they did. So, yeah, Kyrie went down, he got injured, and Kevin...
They won a title before he ever came, but the Cavs were completely depleted. Then they lost the next year when they were completely depleted. So it was a fair split. But the Cavs had the psychological edge over the Warriors. LeBron felt like he had their number. LeBron was getting help from the league. The league was in LeBron's favor. They were in his corner. And it was just going to be tough for the Warriors to bounce back from that. Steph had his worst stint of his career during that series. He played his worst stretch of basketball towards the end of that series that I've ever seen Steph Curry play. And that's always going to be a mark against Steph Curry. And we have to talk about that when we're talking about top 10 of all time. So he needed KD to come over there and relieve some of the stress and help the Warriors bounce back. And maybe he didn't need KD to be there as long as he was. Maybe he just needed KD for one season to get them over the hump again. And then KD could have left and Steph Curry would have been fine. But initially coming back that very next year, they needed KD to take them over the top. Because KD's the one who hit those big shots in back-to-back game threes when everybody was struggling, or when there wasn't a basket scored for a little while and then you needed one, it was KD who came up clutch. In LeBron's face the first time, and LeBron ran away from him the second time.
Love was out before that, so LeBron was all wise and lonesome. That first chip that Golden State beat him at and all of that other stuff. But I'm just saying, these are the kind of questions that everybody throws in there. So I look at the list, and I'm like, it's one of the rare... But I don't have a definitive opinion. I have to sit up here like this. Good God, I got to think about this.
But anyway, talking about the top 10 players list is always fun. Debating the GOAT is always fun. Is Steph Curry a top 10 player right now? I'd have to say no. Does he have a chance at getting into the top 10? Yeah, but he's competing against some really, really great all-time players. He's competing against Wilt Chamberlain. He's competing against Shaq. He's competing against Tim Duncan. And I think he's going to need at least an MVP and a Finals MVP in order to get ahead of those guys. For me to put Steph Curry ahead of Kobe Bryant, he would at least have to get a Finals MVP. Thanks for watching. Peace.